So, a very good evening to one and all. Once again, welcome all of you to the 4-day conference on how to crack civil service examination and challenges of being a civil servant. So, traditionally, if we look at the civil service preparation, it was concentrated in the coaching hubs of Delhi and a few capital cities. Aspirants from far corners of the country flocked to these places to achieve their dream of becoming an IAS officer. However, in the recent years, the trend is changing and online medium is gaining popularity. Aspirants are increasingly using online medium, which gives them the liberty to stay at their hometown or remain committed to their jobs and still prepare for the exam. The internet has actually revolutionized the preparation of the UPSC exams. The internet, though, is an ocean of information, and there are various resources which can actually confuse and can hamper your preparation. So, a judicious use of the online medium is necessary to help you get the availability of data, use of government websites, access to online classes, and also using blogs to further sharpen one's analytics. We also have with us Dhananjay Ghanwat, IPS, Superintendent of Police, Dhemaji, Assam. He is actually a doctor by profession. He is a Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery, MBBS, from the University of Mumbai, who went on to do his master's degree in police management from Osmania University and SVP National Police Academy, Hyderabad. He has also a master's of science degree from Sussex University, Brighton, UK. He has more than 12 years of experience both as a police officer and also as an offshore medical officer with UNGC. He is currently in the service, and he is the man behind the conceptualization and initiation of the date of the idea of upcoming government institution, Assam Police Cyber Dome. He headed the project as founding deputy director since June 2017. He was also the member of the National Micro Mission on Communication and Technology by Bureau of Police Research and Development, Government of India, and member of the subgroup on developing indicators for safe city projects by the Ministry of Home Affairs, Government of India. He was the International Chevening Scholar 2017-18, selected by the FCO of Government of UK. He was also Director General of Police Commendation for Distinguished Service.
Thank you, madam, for the. In no case I wish to pretend any expertise on the exact relevant of the topic that is given to me. That is relevance of or the importance of internet in the UPSC preparation. So that is why I was requesting Ravi sir also and the organizers that I would be not be able to exactly give away some exact websites or some YouTube channels or something. I won't be really much helpful in that category, but I thought still I would like to communicate with the viewers, and that is because I feel oriented towards technology, and wherever I get a chance, I definitely try to speak about it. When I say that I'm a technology enthusiast, it is not just the usage of the technology. It is the technology means a lot to me, and that is the perspective with which I would like to leave you with today. So when I say technology, obviously in the loose sense of term, everybody is aware what I mean. The technology that is around us, that has been a part of our everyday life. The technology adoption in India has been a story in itself, and that's a fantastic story. How technology came, our father's generation is still struggling. I mean, there is a generation gap, and the generation in technology changes every 5 years, they say, and this gap is shrinking and shrinking. So the thing is, there is a question about adaptability to this space of technology, and there's a need to really embrace it in its entirety. So as India responds to the march of technology, which we cannot stop anyways, there are several certain gaps that I'm seeing for myself. Gaps in the sense of a holistic response from our Indian society, from our bureaucracy, from our students. That is the reason with which I'm usually concerned with. Uh, I don't know, I missed my own introduction, but maybe I'll take this opportunity just to give the relevant snippets that bind me with my love for technology. I got my undergraduate degree in medical, that is MBBS, and after that I was working with ONGC as a medical officer. So they used to take us offshore, and I think that is where I developed this taste for the engineering side of the technology. Although I came from medicine, I got a lot of time to interact with the engineers. Like they used to take us some 200 250 kilometers inside the high seas in INC, so-called Bombay High, and we would interact with the engineers. As such, I had only the 2 hours of OPD work in the morning and evening, and rest of the time I used to interact with the engineers, and that fascinated me and showed me the plethora of possibilities that human beings, can literally reach. And after that, then obviously I was preparing for civil services. I got into police service in 2009 exam. Till that time, because I came from a yester generation, I would like to say in terms of technology, our college was pretty much conventional in terms of technology usage. So we still did our projects, we still did our submissions in the very much offline platforms. So that is the reason I had not really touched computers while in college. I did college in Mumbai, and despite that, well, when I was preparing for civil services, that too again, the internet was not very much ubiquitous that time. Everybody did not have internet, and one used to had to visit the cyber cafes for that, and that was a sense of that was expansive too. That is the reason it was not ubiquitous, and the internet had not entered the pockets, and that is why offline manner. But after I got into the civil services, and we went to National Police Academy, which is a fantastic place you must visit in your lifetime sometimes. Ravi Patel sir is, in fact, the faculty there is not just the alumni, but the faculty over there. So that is where National Police Academy grilled into us the importance of technology. And like whether you believe it or not, that is the first time I ever learned MS Excel or MS Office, even typing, and I try to improve the speed of typing because I came from a non-engineering background, and but then that thing caught upon me, and when I got allocated to Assam cadre. Then I worked in Assam police in the initial years. In the conventional terms, I was given various charges in the remote areas, in jungle areas. We did a lot of anti-insurgency operations. We went to jungles, and then perhaps these days everybody knows about it, so maybe I can speak. We used to do something about the CDR analysis and how to track a person's mobile phone and all that. And that time we used to think, oh, if this was would have been there, how good that would have been. For example, we used to go for some jungle operation. We are going to jungle operation. We are pretty sure that there is some information, and we are going from point A to point B, and this is the route we would take. We would take out GPS devices and we would go, because there is no zero room for mistake. It's all about life and death. So that is the reason we would negotiate very carefully, and we would reach the point. But howsoever well you plan, at that time we used to use the Google Earth maps just to know the terrain for operation in the middle of night. But when you actually land up in the operation at 1 a.m. in the middle of night, you suddenly see a hut in the middle of your trodden path, and then you're not sure whether that hut is of a militant or a friendly hut or of a citizen or whom. So in the best interest, you have to again take a detour, and your entire planning is gone for a toss. So that is the time we used to think, why not? Why could we not have a latest picture from Google? Why not? There was not a technology fix for it. Why don't we have drones or some cameras? Why can't we have some camera traps if somebody is passing through the jungles and there is some motion sensor and somebody picks it up, and the information is relayed to us in the real time. So friends, like my approach to technology was very much like from the utilitarian point of view. It was from the need based side. But then that fascinated me, and I developed some raw model of all the use cases. That these are the areas in which we would like police to grow, adopt technology for internal security, and then I made a plan over it. And when I was posted in another district, actually I got a chance. As a you are pretty resourceful, and you can plan your things. You have some amount of freedom to experiment and all that. So we did that, and we got good results. So it was showcased to our bosses, and everybody liked it, and even the political bosses. And like I got an incredible opportunity of designing the Assam upcoming body of Assam Cyber Dome. So that was the first of its kind in entire India. So that is still coming, but that is where I designed so many things together. it was not about technology only, it was about technology policy also, it was about technology administration also. I'll finish the long story short. The thing is, like, I realized, I gathered some importance of technology in policing and the vacuum inside it, and was able to develop some kind of module over it and propose it. And it was received very well from the government. By the way, I got to learn about project management, and then I took the opportunity to learn more about it because I got simply fascinated about it. Then I applied for Chevening scholarship. Like, Chevening is a body of Foreign and Commonwealth Office of Government of UK, and I applied for it. Was lucky to be shortlisted, and in fact awarded the 1 year scholarship in UK. Separately, I also applied for the degrees, and there is a college called SPRU within Sussex University, UK. SPRU stands for Science Policy Research Unit. So that is recently also rated as #3, world #3 think tank in science policy think areas. So that is where I was lucky to pursue 1 year MSc course in mid-career. That is in 2017-18. So I pursued that, and that completely changed my perspective at a global level, I think. I thought that there's a lot like a country like India has to gain from these areas. Everybody would definitely agree that if India has to grow, which it has to, and if we are to develop as a nation, as a superpower, this developmental story of India is not going to get completed without adopting right technology. Everybody would agree to that. So we have this necessity of technology. So technology has to be there. Now, this when technology comes, let it come through a proper, staggered, and controlled and regulated and correct manner, rather than we being ending up product of some other nation. We should be conscious, we as a nation, and our experts, our bureaucrats, every stakeholder in the ecosystem, they should be aware of the do's and don'ts of the policies, of the nitty-gritties of the technology side of it, and that is where the exact expertise demands. So currently, our Prime Minister of India also keeps on saying at various events that for officers that it's an age of specialization. So for the aspirants, those who are there, and particularly the students of public administration, you might have read about the general debate of generalists versus specialists, isn't it? So it's a good mix of it. Now this dichotomy is going away. It's a dichotomy of specialist along with the generalist idea, and that is what they are looking for. So it's very important that your aspirants, you are aspiring for some examination, you should know what exactly is demanded out of us. So what is that is being tested out of us. So they are testing this kind of ability, whether you can imagine things, whether you have good abstraction power, whether you can link up things, whether you have situational awareness. So that is what is most important thing I would like to leave away with, the thought with. So in everything, it is very important that you link up the things. You link up a thing from economy or economics to something to technology, and that can have a historical background and a geographical location. So when you are preparing for civil services, this is what is exactly required. So when you are appreciating a news or reading an article, always consume it slowly, always try, ruminate it, always think about it, how I can link up more concepts around it. And by this way, actually, one more thing happens. This topic ingrains in you because you have ruminated over it there and there itself as you are consuming that news or that topic, that concept. So allow yourself that time, allow yourself those resources, and when you consume one particular concept in its entirety, in its linkages, because everything is interconnected, then you automatically develop a holistic view, and you stand in a better chance to respond in a different and unique manner than reading some new, notes which everybody reads and goes and writes there. This examination is certainly not that exam. This is not your undergrad exam. In fact, that is also changing these days with the new education policy coming in. The entire system of examinations that is there in our country is set to change. That will obviously take some time, but UPSC has definitely changed, like provoked people to depart from that kind of examination, that wherein you just wrote everything and write everything. So that has to go. Your understanding should reflect, and this understanding has to be multifaceted. That is the reason I provoke you to think in all different directions over a topic, and this is possible today because of technology, because of internet technologies, because nowadays you can immediately link up things. unlike our times when we had offline things to do. So we are reading the budget of India, which is presented. We had to shuffle through so many books because it's not just about economics. It's also about science and technology. It's also about agriculture. It's about also about monsoon. It's also about something else. So one would take much time and effort to go through all these and make your own notes. So these days, internet is going to help very easily to you. But then this effort has to be deliberately put in by you. So it's very important that you make your own notes. You can shuffle in between. For example, you're reading some news. First of all, like I did find out some good sources on the internet before appearing before you, because the topic is about internet preparation in UPSC. So I can't go in the exact details, but I thought that it's a wonderful idea to follow the Twitter handles of PIB, Press Information Bureau. Look at their YouTubes. Similarly, about Rajya Sabha, because these are the sources which are most authentic. All India Radio. So that is where you will get the exact proper news. I mean, non Chakravarti and non Sushant Singh news. That is where you will find on these so-called channels. But that is what you should follow. And when you follow a news, it's a good idea to there and there itself, make digital notes and visit some other similar topics concerning to that and make your own notes. This is possible in today's area. And it's high time that we actually embrace these areas, because now UPSC is going to ask you these questions. These are the relevant debates that our society is facing today around technology. That is about privacy issues. We don't have a law like GDPR in Europe, data privacy laws. They are set to come here. We are, banning the Chinese apps. On what grounds are we banning? That's a technology. That's related to trade, also international trade. So everything is interconnected, as I was talking about. But then it's very important that you follow the right news and then make your own digital notes. The time will not be far, my friends. I'm telling you, today's 2020, when UPSC might have online examinations. It is very much possible. At least the prelim part might very much come online. There are several exams which are already held online. So it's not a magic, to do. In fact, post COVID, in fact, this online thing is increased. As Yuval Noah Harari, you must have read, perhaps he's a philosopher and good writer. He said that whenever there is a catastrophe, whenever there is a problem, crisis, that hastens the speed of history. So I adopt that and say that that's hastens the speed of adoption of technology. So this technology was bound to come. This crisis of COVID has only hastened its speed. Nowadays, you see, you go to any rural interior, everybody's going on work from home and study from home. There are online classes going on, at least on mobile. So on one side, like these pandemics have been coming in India. We had Ebola, we had SARS, we had MERS, everything, but they were not. The time was not mature. So Corona has struck in 2020. That's, we should thank Corona, because it has struck in a time when we are almost ready. Ready because now there's a good internet penetration. Ready because we have good almost 4G mobile penetration has been good. The handset are very cheap, and like this penetration has really good, and the infrastructure, the mindset, everything was ready. So that is the critical time when Corona came. That's the reason we are now even talking and interacting online. Minus Corona, I'm not sure, like MIT would have gone ahead with the offline kind of, is a wonderful event, and sorry to miss that, and real is always real, but then we would not have, is my point. So COVID has forced us to embark upon this technology, and it is likely to do so in the coming times. So we better embrace it. So these are the areas in which we as a nation are for marching. So you should expect questions in your main exam, in your interview, pertaining to these areas, these topics intersecting with the privacy debates, with the cyber security debates, with the cyber sovereignty debates. These are the larger questions you should ask. You should ruminate. Did you ever think, like, did you ever get disturbed, I will say, that why, as we Indians, we are not Atmanirbhar in case of digital technologies? We call ourselves a superpower in India, isn't it? You must have heard this. We are software superpower. But are we really that? Because we don't have a single national company which has given a good product line in terms of mobile or laptops or desktops. We don't have our own operating system. We don't have our own antivirus barring Quickhill and all that. We don't have our own even search engines or the browsers. These are the basic stuff we don't have. Now forget about the cyber security equipments like all the suite of that is there. We don't have. And we allow, when we allow a antivirus to sit on our laptop, we virtually allow a foreign company to completely guard and look into each and every file that we have. We trust those companies. Of course, the market is governed, but the way like rogue companies from across the borders are coming, these debates have really accentuated that why can't we have our own systems. So that is where the Atmanirbhar digital platforms are going. Then Atmanirbhar in technology is not just about the cyber technologies. Also, it is also about nanotechnologies, also about biotechnology, also about agriculture technologies. So we need to emerge as that. So these are the things which you should. These are the thoughts which you should disturb you as a youth of this country, and not just a civil service aspirant. That is the reason it's high time that we at least make ourselves friendly with these gadgets, with these computers, irrespective of background. So we should first of all discard that kind of inferiority complex if anybody has that. That I come from art stream, I come from commerce stream, I don't know about computers. That was the reason why I told that I first touched computer or learnt MS Office in National Police Academy. So like the idea is I don't know still coding and all. I'm trying to learn all those fields. The learning is still there, but like we should always uh, upgrade ourselves, upskill ourselves. The new latest skills that are demanded are like data science, like basics of cybersecurity. Every one of us should really know them. Like artificial intelligence, what are these? What is this all debate about 4.0, industry 4.0, education 4.0, 3.0 and 4.0, offline and online. So all this thing is very much here to stay post COVID also. This system is very much going to stay. But of course, on the flip side, I'll say when you're going to prepare for civil services in the internet era, there are some flip sides also. This internet is a double-edged sword. Like every other technology, it's a dual purpose. It's going to take your time away. So this UPSC already they say it's like anything under the sun, and it's like a vast sea of information and knowledge. So information, this internet is going to confuse you all the more. It's very much true that this information overload is going to overawe you. So it's very important to understand what not to read also, and please like visit the authentic sources for that, and consult your coaches, mentors, seniors as to what is right, what is not right in reading. Devise your timing accordingly. Please don't waste your time on the social media platforms much. In fact, you should stay away from them. I'll suggest like do away with your own personal Facebook or Twitter handles and create some different thematic handles. For example, if your name is like whatever Sachin. So say that Sachin civil service aspirant. So like I'm just saying, so come in that gear and let that handle be used only for civil service preparation. So you follow only those channels or those people who help you in the civil service preparation, so that you don't socialize with friends. So this Sachin does not now send a friend request to some of his social friends or relatives. That's the beautiful way to keep them away and keep thematic social. So don't do away completely with those social media. You should be with that. I'll be the last person to suggest that you do away with the social media. Of course, do away with Tinder and all, and that's not what is really important. But stay in the game, but stay focused. Prioritize your these things. There are several community groups these days. Be a part of them. It's always because civil service preparation is about a team game. Always you see, whenever you see a list of civil service successful candidates, even including the one we are felicitating this year, you'll find that it's a cluster result. So people know each other, most of them. How it happens? Because this exam basically is unlike your board exams. It's not about individual success. It's about a team game. So sometimes your friends help. Sometimes it's they prepare together. So maybe you can meet such virtual friends. There are several communities in Facebook or maybe elsewhere, WhatsApp groups where they discuss just these thematic things. So you can enter those community groups. You can discuss your problems. You can discuss your queries exactly, and keep the entire group motivated. So you can always do that. There are beautiful podcasts available. So maybe that can save your time when you're traveling. You can simply listen to them. A few programs from All India Radio are really, really wonderful. The panel discussions which they hold in the evening. So there's some like Pratyogata Darpan and all. You can download several PDF copies and keep them on your PDAs, personal digital assistants, and you can read them at your ease. You can make use of Kindle because that allows you, you know, to have complete control on you. You can make your own notes, you can add, you can serve the dictionary. uh, uh, the best part, I'll say, I always liked Wikipedia. I always also donate them to them because the way they cover things are nice. Wikipedia is exactly not too deep, not too shallow, and that is what is perhaps required out of you as a civil servant also. I once again repeat, I don't know coding as of now, but I do know what is the importance of coding. What are the outputs? What is with coding? What is not with coding? How it relates to data science? How can I get the best value out of it? So that all understanding and awareness is always given in the Wikipedia page. So that kind of knowledge is good. You should develop that. If you look at any Wikipedia village page, you'll see that there is a history to it. There is a reference to it. There is some facts about that topic. There are some relevant science part given. So there's collection of everything about one article. So that is what I wish to tell you about. Coming to your interview preparation, again, this is going to help you a lot because the more videos you watch, more likely you're likely to be well versed with your body language, how it should be, how do you communicate online, offline. It is very much possible that they'll conduct these kind of interviews as a part of it. So how do you speak? How do you communicate it, this way? Because now communicating
Sir?
online has become a part of new skills, communication skill set. So you need to develop that. You need to record your videos and answer that. So that's all from my side, and maybe we can go over to the next part of the question.
Yes, sir, because and I think students are eager to listen to your views on those questions. So, if you allow me, due to paucity of time, we may take a couple or two. So, there is a question coming from a student. So, you have very rightly connected the technology and policy. Would like to listen to your views on any specific government policy where we see dominant use of technology and how it has benefited the public at a large.
Okay. So now, the immediate example that comes to my mind is of the technology policy of, say, spectrum allocation, right? So that is where the impact of technology policy comes in. So somebody sitting there devised or invented this wireless communication technology. Somebody thought that, okay, this is the frequency spectrum bandwidth in which there can be a communication. Somebody then devised antennas. Somebody put them inside a box like this, mobile phone like this, and then we would able to talk. But then that was not enough. It was government who stepped in, who said that, okay, spectrum is a public good, and let it be auctioned. Let there be some companies who will bid for it in a certain manner prescribed, and then they'll win. There'll be terms and conditions. Then they will then make the bundles, retail plans. The customers would buy that, and then they will manage that for some fee, for some remuneration. There'll be some another regulatory body called TRAI to look into their manners, and then you simply walk to the next store, purchase a mobile, purchase a SIM card, install that, pay your plans, and then go ahead and talk. So that was possible because of the intervention of the government, intervention of the policy also. So that is the beautiful example. Currently, of course, Government of India has come out with the science technology STI policy, science technology innovation policy. That's the next policy. First policy had come in 2013. Now next policy has come. It was in the public domain. Now it will unfold. So likewise, there are several policies. We have policy on biotechnology coming now, nanotechnology policies there, health policy is already coming up. Somebody sitting there suggested that we should have a digital stack of every human citizen. And now NDHM has already launched National Digital Health Mission. So nothing happens without technology and policy. So I don't know if I answered that rightly, but that is what I understood.
Yes, sir. I think you answered it well. Now there is one more question coming. There's too much discussion on 5G and its benefits and the domination of China in this sector. So can you please share some insights on how Government of India is taking forward its unveiling plans and harnessing its benefits?
I have a lot more to say because, but then there are some points I will not be able to say also. I was happy to contribute to these discussions really at the cutting edge level. And I won't be speaking much about it. But yes, 5G was going to invade us the way 2G, 3G, and 4G did. But there was by the time, like our experts, our scientific community, our bureaucratic community, our internal and external security community had woken up to the challenge that these 5G vulnerabilities are going to have and the impact that China was going to have. Now, I'll say it in the open platform that China, led by its prominent companies like Huawei and all sort of them, definitely were up to something. They were up to some foul play with secret backdoors in their devices. They were artificially inflating, not inflating, deflating their prices and competing unfairly. In fact, President Trump, in fact, uh, denounced them particularly because of the unfair practices in the trade, and it's not no longer allowed to bid in US. UK also revised their policies, and now they are looking into it how they can allow. And that was the time when India also had almost floated the tenders for 5G companies. Now these tenders were very clear that Huawei would win. They were sitting in that, and when they would come, they will simply dominate that scene. Now in technology policy, there is a term called as lock-in pathway. So you are committed to a pathway, you cannot go back. So it was very important that we halted that, and at the cost of the time, we have decided as a nation that we would take our time, let our players develop it, let ourselves satisfy over those vulnerabilities. The biggest problem in India has been about absence of the foundry, the chip foundry. We don't have chip manufacturing base here. So let's see how we shape. We are aggressively pushing agendas under Atmanirbhar project. Plus, at the same time, new frontiers of technology are beckoning, like quantum computing. The entire chipset industry is going to be disrupted. So these are the debates you should be reading on and you should be writing. If you write these things, I'm sure your examiner is going to get impressed because these are the cutting edge debates. Glad you asked that question. And sorry, I can't repeat much.
Indeed.
But they're doing right things, I'm sure.
I would like to ask the recent revelation of China snooping, collecting information. In this scenario, what do you think that India's preparedness level is? I'm not sure, sir, still, because it's a policy question, but I would still like to get your views on this, sir.
No, definitely. In person, I have always been critical about India's preparedness for the cyber security and related things. It's not just about cyber security. There are four things that I call as internet wrongs. In one of the paper that I had published in National Police Academy Journal, I have given a classification, the technology of the taxonomy of internet wrongs. So broadly, I think that cyber crime is one, which you all know, cyber crime. Second is about the information warfare. So somebody deliberately pushes the agenda which they want in your social media, in your electronic media, and they try to shape your thought pattern, your society's pattern, and make you believe in certain manner. So that is another different kind of psychological warfare, information warfare that happens. So third is about terrorism, cyber terrorism, and all those areas. So information war is different. These cyber terrorism is different, and fourth is ethical wrongs. So we must check our preparedness in all these areas. As far as cyber crime is concerned, I think we are better prepared now. We are getting prepared. As far as the information warfare is concerned, we are still yet to rise up to the challenge in entirety. As far as this cyber terrorism and all cyber espionage and all corporate espionage, all those things are concerned, I think we need to do a lot. We need to do a lot because, first of all, we are not Atmanirbhar in terms of our gadgets that I was talking about. We don't have our own servers. No server is where entire data resides. The antivirus plans and all the SIEM and all those technical gadgets which Snoop you allow these companies to snoop. We don't have our own virtual communication platform. That is the reason MIT, which is Ministry of Electronics and Technology, came out with this challenge of designing this web portal for virtual communication. We are preparing ourselves, but we have a lot of ground to cover. I particularly want every one of us to go through one particular book. I very strongly recommend that. This name is No Place to Hide. Okay, No Place to Hide. It's written by Glenn Gladwell, and it's on none but the Snowden revelations. So just go through that book. There's a documentary in Netflix also available on that. I don't know its name. I've seen that, but there's ample literature available online also. But that book is awesome book that will open your eyes to this entire game of snooping, espionage, and malware. How do they do it and everything? You must be aware as aspirants because that is what is plaguing us as a nation. So be well prepared in those areas, irrespective of your background. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. Before we wind up, I would request Ravindranath Patil sir to speak a few words. Vote of thanks. Sir, over to you.
Thank you. An enterprising medical professional joins Indian Police Service, develops interest in the field of technology. He not only leads a very important technology domain within his state, he is also a role model for other civil servants, other IPS officers. He travels to Kerala to conduct sessions, writes articles in National Police Academy, goes to UK to be part of, and I'm sure he's, as he's mentioning that I cannot disclose this and that, you can imagine he's one of the sort of after technocrat in the country. He mentioned only few things about technology. I just have one last question to you, Dhananjay, before Madam takes it over. You talked about technology as an advantage and how we can use it, and you also gave example of using authentic sources. You are leading a district, probably north of Dibrugarh and adjoining Arunachal Pradesh. You yesterday posted photographs on Facebook that your district was full of water, and probably finding it very difficult to find a way back to your home. In this scenario, how is your area or the remote places in the country are coping up with the use of technology for the preparedness? Is it coming as an advantage or a disadvantage for them?
Sir, a beautiful question. This question revolves around the digital divide that we are aware of. Digital divide, we are on the wrong side of the digital divide, being in the remote. We are really, really remote. Right now, I am 3,000 plus kilometers from Mumbai or Pune. So, and as you rightly mentioned, I'm sitting at the foothills of Arunachal Pradesh in a completely remote area. We have problems of electricity access, and now still we are able to converse through online. So that is a mix of it. That is why I thank Corona for visiting us in 2020 rather than 2017 or 18, because now is the time, sir. We were already going towards that direction. A couple of government organizations have had a good bandwidth condition. Talking about my office, when I came here, I immediately tapped into RailWire, which is a PSU of railway, which provides internet connection and backup to all the railway lines. So luckily my district has a railway line advantage, and I immediately tapped in, and I got 70-80 Mbps. So, but then that is okay. These are the islands. I'll just take a minute as to how I responded to this question when Corona struck here, sir. When it came, like I went to all the colleges here, all the at least science colleges, I thought, and there are 3-4 important big science colleges in my district. And then I gathered the mobile numbers of all the class 10 and class 12 students. I thought that they should not lose, their curriculum, and we never know how long it will go. Then I sorted their numbers. Most of them were from Airtel or from Jio. Then I shot a mail to these nodal officers saying that these are 5,000 each. That there were around 10,000 students from my area in class 10 and class 12 of only science stream. So that was the experiment I was trying to do. And I wrote to both these companies saying that why don't you, through your CSR, why don't you do a data package of 4G or 3G onto these mobiles? And then I talked to one company of Dr. Vijay Bhatkar sir, who has been my mentor. He has this ETH, Education to Home company, for virtual online classes. Glad, like he offered it at a very throwaway price. It was just rupees 10 per month per candidate, so cheap. So we thought that we got that platform. Then we designed that this student, the teachers would impart classes on ordinary phones and mobile. We would record and upload it. Now there was a question of getting that uploading bandwidth. So then I again approached Indian Railways. Railways was very gracious because now their networks, their trains were not running. So as such, their bandwidth was going unused, except for the goods trains. So then they allowed us their Wi-Fi's. So we have 5 big stations in my district. So for uploading, we would go to that. We would record the videos and we would go to those stations, railway stations, and use that Wi-Fi and upload that onto that cloud. And using that cloud, students would be using that. Now that sounds like a simple thing to everybody sitting in Pune, Mumbai, Delhi, and all those my audience. Like, what is the big deal? We every day listen to these online classes. But friends, the specific question which Ravi sir has asked is about battling these challenges in this part of the world that I'm sitting. So that, like, somehow we did that. That was a success initially. Now then government stepped in. So we are not having any loss as such. But yes, these are the challenges. I'm sure this will go away. You all must be aware that the great entrepreneur Elon Musk is already floating his Starlink project. So he'll be launching 12,000 mini satellites and providing internet from the sky. So looking at him immediately, Jeff Bezos from Amazon also is launching his own link of satellites. And very soon, this question of internet connectivity, range, and all that is going to be a thing of the past. At least all the landmass, the continents are likely to get 24/7 connectivity wherever you go in any remote. There won't be any remote part per se. But then again, me as an individual and as a officer of the Indian Police Service, I'm plagued with this question that these ISPs, internet service providers, will be again foreign players. What about our players? Why can't we provide the internet connectivity from sky? Can we launch some kind of balloon at least, and that stationary balloon that can be tied to rope at least, and that can cover a zone of around whatever kilometers. Today, a tower is up to maybe only 100 meters high. That covers an area of influence. So, likewise, there are a lot of technologies that are coming. So, how can we marry them? But we cannot imagine without a policy, technology policy. That we cannot adopt technology without a proper study around it. I'm sure this digital divide will be a thing of only a couple of years. That's my hunch. I may be wrong. I hope I'm not wrong. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Dhananjay sir, for your most insightful words. I guess winding up is very hard because we would love to listen to you more and more. Essentially, because you are an expert in this topic that we have as the theme for this session of the 4-day conference. But unfortunately, due to paucity of time, we would like to wind up this session. And I would request Professor Gopal Vamini, Head of School of Public Policy, MIT Valpis University, to propose the vote of thanks. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Anuradha ma'am. Listening to all the speakers over there was really a delight. Again, while proposing my vote of thanks yesterday, it did took me to my alma mater, preparations of Delhi. So over here, looking at Ganvat sir, I'm remembered of the preparations at the Gnyan Prabodhini and taking it forward from there. Like myself, Rujuta is also over here, that we had an opportunity to visit Assam and Arunachal Pradesh over there. So at that particular point of time, we weren't able to meet Ganvat sir, but it was really gracious to meet Vishal sir over there and also Vaibhav Nimbalkar sir. So during that particular time, we were into that part of country like Arunachal Pradesh, like Pobitaro and all that part, which sir did mention out over there. Apart from this, I would also like to put in the question which was been posed by Anuradha ma'am with respect to what are the government policies and what government has been doing like with respect to that. So a very good example has been given by Ghanvat sir over there that during the time of pandemic, how an officer, a civil servant can make a difference into the life of the people. So harnessing the technologies at hand and utilizing what has been unused for the benefit of the people at large is really the USP what an officer can make a difference into the life of the people. So really a thumbs up for the contribution what sir has made. I would also like to thank Rutuja Bankar madam. So she has been really gracious, like has been guiding the students at MIT, like Vivekananda Shukla sir and Nikhil Kamble sir. I also take this opportunity to thank the students who are listening to this lecture, my fellow colleagues, my fellow mates at MIT School of Government and the management at MIT. So with these words, I would like to end this particular session and really would like to see all the guests to come at the MIT University and have an interaction with the students once we are out of this pandemic times. Thank you. Thank you.